Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh and you're watching AWANI Tonight. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said today that Malaysia would be able to achieve an inflation rate of 3.3% by year-end. This is after Malaysia's Consumer Price Index (CPI) for February has remained unchanged at 3.7%. He said since December 2022, the overall inflation rate has reached a stable level. But prices of goods still remained high for ordinary Malaysians due to their present wages.
Tanda-tanda menunjukkan bahawa kemuncak kenaikan harga barang itu kita sudah melepasi kemuncaknya. Dan kita berharap supaya dari satu bulan ke satu bulan, kalaupun ia turun pada kadar 0.1% setiap bulan, tetapi pola menurun ini berterusan dalam bulan-bulan yang akan datang, yang akan terus menstabilkan harga barang. Sekarang 3.7%, kita lihat dalam 1-2 bulan selalunya dia anjakan ke bawah itu sebanyak 0.1% lah, daripada 3.8, 3.7, kadang-kadang 3.7 kekal 2 bulan. Kalau ini berterusan, maksudnya sehingga akhir tahun ini kita ada peluang untuk membawa inflasi ke paras sekitar 3.1 ke 3.3%, iaitu unjuran yang dibuat untuk tahun 2023 ini.
Four crucial bills tabled in the Dewan Rakyat today will pave the way for the abolishment of mandatory death sentence, as well as criminalizing online sextortion and live streaming sex involving children. The bills were tabled by Law and Institutional Reforms Minister Dato' Sri Azalina Othman Said for their first reading, with the second reading expected to be done in the current Dewan Rakyat seating. Among them, Azalina tabled the abolition of mandatory death penalty bill 2023 and the revision of sentences of death and imprisonment for natural life bill 2023. The proposed amendments for the former bill will give the courts discretion on whether to impose a death sentence or prison sentence for a period not exceeding 40 years, while the latter will allow the court to revise the sentences of 840 death row inmates and 25 others who had failed in appeal for clemency to the Pardons Board. Azalina also tabled the amendments to Sexual Offences Against Children Bill 2023 and amendments to the Evidence of Child Witness Bill 2023 for their first reading. The first bill will make live streaming sex and online sextortion involving children a crime. Those convicted of live streaming sex involving children can face a jail term not exceeding 20 years and 50,000 ringgit fine, while those convicted of sextortion can be jailed up to 10 years. Meanwhile, the proposed amendments to the Evidence of Child Witness Bill will increase the age of a child witness from 16 to 18. The mechanism for targeted diesel subsidy is expected to be completed by June. Although the government has not yet set a date for its implementation, Deputy Finance Minister Dato' Sri Ahmad Maslan said the focus for targeted subsidies will be for electricity and diesel first before it is shifted to petrol.
Untuk diesel ini kita sedang mengkaji bagaimana dia boleh melibatkan kos kenaikan harga barang dan sebagainya. Itu sebab kemungkinan untuk PKS ada treatment yang lain. Jadi kita masih lagi dalam kajian. Walau bagaimanapun sistemnya hanya akan siap pada suku kedua tahun ini. Pelaksanaannya belum tahu bila, tetapi yang kita nak dulukan ialah elektrik dan sudah pun bermula. Selepas ini diesel, kemudian kita lihat petrol kemudian. Petrol ni yang cukup sensitif.
Ahmad added that the government spent 50.8 billion ringgit in subsidies for petrol, diesel and liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) last year. Earlier in February, he said the government could save up to 17 billion ringgit should it implement a targeted subsidy mechanism and remove fuel subsidies enjoyed by the T20. Astro Malaysia Holdings reported a 7% quarter-on-quarter increase in Q4 revenue to 991 million ringgit, driven by higher ADAX and a larger broadband base, while profit after tax and minority interest improved quarter-on-quarter to 55 million ringgit, thanks to higher revenue and unrealized forex gains from transponder lease liabilities as the ringgit appreciated during the period. Ewan Smith, Group CEO of Astro, said the company's value-added streaming TV packs contributed to a 1 ringgit increase in ARPU to 98 ringgit 20 cent year-on-year, while the broadband base grew by 34% year-on-year. Additionally, Astro reported a 25% year-on-year increase in on-demand show streams to 660 million, driven by customers using Ultra and Ulti boxes and Astro Go. For the full year, Astro recorded PATAMI of 259 million ringgit, but no dividends will be paid this quarter due to the 763 million ringgit non-cash impairment for investments in subsidiaries. We will go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
$8.7 juta individu yang layak terima sumbangan tunai rahmah. Boleh kemukakan pendaftaran baru sampailah 31 Mac ni.
KKD telah pun memainkan peranannya untuk mengarahkan syarikat telekomunikasi ataupun telco menyediakan genset di kawasan hotspot banjir yang kini melibatkan 5 negeri.
Penggunaan drone dapat memperluaskan inovasi dan penggunaan teknologi baru bagi memperkasa serta meningkatkan produktiviti sektor pertanian.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim looks forward to Cambodia's contribution of ideas in coming up with a comprehensive framework to tackle the Myanmar crisis in the next ASEAN summit. Anwar said this in a joint press conference with his Cambodian counterpart Hun Sen on his one-day official visit to Cambodia. Other than that, he also thanked Hun Sen for his support in bringing back Malaysian victims of a job scam syndicate in Cambodia.
I must also express my thanks, Prime Minister, because Cambodia has been one of the countries that have been most forthcoming and helpful when we have to deal with the job scam issue, which also affect your citizens, but then you were helpful in in assisting us to bring back 287 Malaysian victims of job scam. And from the report of my colleagues, Cambodia under your leadership is quite outstanding in terms of giving fullest support and collaboration in these efforts. So thank you very much, because it means a lot to the hundreds of families affected by this scam.
To weigh in on some of the key takeaways during the Prime Minister's official visit to Cambodia, we have with us Director of Centre for ASEAN Regionalism, University Malaya, Dr. Rahul Mishra.
So the first one, I think, is very important to those two memoranda of understanding on having Cambodian workers for both on the domestic front as domestic helpers and domestic workers, but also in the formal sector. And this is important because economies across Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, are now gearing up for this post-COVID phase where they are up for recovery, greater production, and also in terms of greater exports. So I think having this agreement at this point in time is very good. It's a smart move. Also, I think very important is the recent scams that we've had. More than 280 Malaysians became victims of the job scams in Cambodia. So I thought that point was also very important in terms of addressing it and nipping it in the bud.
Rahul also highlighted Anwar's focus in solving regional issues within ASEAN during his visit overseas, especially the ones concerning Myanmar.
Just past 6 months, right? From end of November to end of March, within this short span of time, the Prime Minister has had 7 visits. And if you see the trend, it is very clear that he has ASEAN focus in his foreign policy. And Myanmar currently is the biggest challenge that ASEAN as an organization and Malaysia as an ASEAN member country is facing. So there are two very distinct trends. One, I'm confident that the Prime Minister is looking at Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN in 2025 and working towards so many small and medium and long-term policy objectives or goals that he has to put forth when Malaysia takes over as ASEAN chair. But also the regional solidarity. You see that somehow the focus is always on regional issues rather than bilateral. I mean, Cambodia could be just an exception, and possibly his visit to China as well. But in other trips, we've seen that the regional focus, for example, during his visit to Thailand, the focus, so bringing peace and stability, it seems to me, is emerging as one of the central tenets of the current government's policy.
On to the international front, anti-government protests are taking place across Israel over a controversial plan by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to overhaul the judiciary. His coalition is under pressure to decide whether to implement or delay plans to change the justice system, a proposal that have provoked an outpouring of anger from almost all sections of Israeli society, including the powerful military. Netanyahu had been due to make an announcement about his plans today, but this has been delayed. There is speculation that Netanyahu will pause plans to change the legal system, but his far-right coalition partners have reportedly threatened to resign if the proposals doesn't go through. Under the proposal, the government would have control over the appointment of judges and parliament would be given the power to overturn Supreme Court rulings. In Tel Aviv, thousands of people have gathered around Israel's parliament to protest Netanyahu's government. Departure flights from Israel's main airport have been grounded, and there have been widespread strikes in many industries. Some airlines are also cancelling incoming flights to Israel of their own accord. According to Reuters, Israeli embassies around the world have been instructed by a workers' union to join the strikes. Myanmar's junta leader, Min Aung Hlaing, has vowed that the country's armed forces will not stop fighting those opposing their rule, whatever the cost. The senior general delivered his remarks in a rare speech as the military put on an annual show of strength for Armed Forces Day. Speaking to nearly 8,000 military personnel at the capital Naypyidaw, Min said the junta will continue to crack down against the opposition and any rebel groups supporting them. He also promised to hold free and fair elections once the current state of emergency is lifted. In February, the junta extended the state of emergency by 6 months and postponed elections it had promised to hold by August, saying it did not control enough of the country to hold a vote. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the military deposed the civilian government of Aung San Suu Kyi more than 2 years ago. In December, the junta concluded a series of closed-door trials against Suu Kyi, jailing her for a total of 33 years in what rights groups have condemned as a sham. While more than 3,100 people have been killed in the military's crackdown on dissent since the coup. Meanwhile, flights, buses and trains across Germany ground to a halt on Monday morning, disrupting millions of commuters and travellers. It comes as transport workers across the country stage a major strike to demand pay rises in the face of inflation. It is one of the biggest strikes in decades in Europe's biggest economy. Two of Germany's biggest airports, Munich and Frankfurt, suspended flights, while German railways cancelled long-distance services. Freight transport by rail and sea was also affected as port and waterway workers joined the 24-hour strike. Unions are demanding a pay rise of at least 10.5%, rejecting employers' earlier offers of a total of 5% in 2 stages, plus a one-off payment of €2,500. German consumer prices rose more than expected in February, up 9.3% year-on-year. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.